Welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel, everyone. This is Rich making another video on XRP today. As usual, we're going to talk about XRP, so I hope everyone is having a fantastic day wherever they are in the world. And I must begin with this Blue Hawk Legends quote. An OKX executive cautions about hype amid a surge in the tokenization of real-world assets. According to him, there are instances where we are tokenizing things that don't require tokenization and other instances where we are tokenizing things that genuinely provide you with practical everyday benefit. Correct. And that is a promising project if you can see that everyday value. There will likely be a lot of tokenization projects emerging, in my opinion. They are tokenizing anything they can find enough material for. Furthermore, a large portion of it will just be worthless. However, tokenization will undoubtedly take off. Although tokenization is still in its infancy, the World Economic Forum estimates that by 2030, the market will be worth $867 trillion, 0 cents. I anticipate that this will gain a lot of traction. The implementation of rules will pave the way for tokenization. The SEC's request to lift the injunction in the judge is what we're awaiting. Ripple may now sell XRP to the institutions directly if the injunction is removed. As XRP investors, that will benefit us since it will quickly raise the price of XRP. Centura, a DeFi gateway for institutions, is the result of the merger of Into the Block and Trident Digital. Tribe Capital, Ripple, and Newform Capital are among the backers. It appears that these new endeavors are on course to secure $25 million, 0 cents from investors. Ripple is one of those investors. You see, Ripple makes charitable contribution. For example, they just donated $25 million, 0 cents in RLUSD to support education. Additionally, Ripple makes numerous startup investments. However, pay attention to what they're investing in when they're funding firms. Institutions will be highly interested in any projects that open up DeFi, cross-border transfers, or tokenization initiatives. Additionally, it will only make XRP more useful in the future. A US CBDC is not something that US Treasury Secretary Besant supports. This is his statement. Digital currency issued by a central bank is an indication of weakness. The Fed establishing digital currency is not something I would support. It is shifting to a private firm like Ripple because of this. The RLUSD is already headed toward becoming the digital dollar of the United States, I assure you. I even believe that Ripple will eventually take the Fed's position. If that were to occur, who would we be? We would be the branches if Ripple were to become a bank, I used to say. I believe that we would be the next JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs if Ripple were to become the Fed. Naturally, however, the Treasury opposes a digital money issued by a central bank. The Fed producing the future currency is something no one wants. Take a look at what they did with the US currencies today. I find it unbelievable that Smoke had to bring this up, but a lot of people simply don't think ISO will be a huge concern. Here is concrete evidence for people who want to view the lines of code connecting XRP to SWIFT and also 222. The Ripple Nets payment system is depicted in the first graphic. Using the ISO 222 external clearing system, identification code list as a direct reference. This demonstrates that ISO communications standards form the foundation of XRP's infrastructure. In order to integrate XRP and SWIFT functions into a single system, the second image imports modules such as XRP payment, XRP settlement, SWIFT service, and SWIFT payment status type from R3/4 code base. This is why it's important. To engage with the SWIFT network, a token or business must be ISO certified. This code demonstrates that XRP satisfies that requirement. Ripple may technically connect and settle directly with any swiftly enabled institution via the XRP ledger. Since XRP is ISO compliant and SWIFT uses those standards, the code contains it as well. This isn't a made-up thing. In fact, you can see it here. Quick service, SWIFT payment status type, XRP payment, and XRP settlement. People still don't get it. Additionally, the price will fluctuate rapidly if you're not invested when this goes live. People would immediately counter that XRP is not necessary for RippleNet. XRP is necessary for RippleNet. No misunderstandings here. Naturally, it is recorded because XRP is a major component of RippleNet. This is how XRP and Ripple Labs will coexist. As long as Ripple Labs' cross-bended real-time payment business continues to be widely utilized, RippleNet will always operate through the XRP market. Furthermore, in this day and age, Ripple Labs even hopes to promote XRP to a bigger platform so it can play a bigger role. XRP would play a part in digital currencies produced by central banks. In this sense, XRP might develop as a neutral currency bridge. It is evident that Ripple Labs continues to use digitization of US dollars abroad. I am simply revealing because I am a stakeholder in USDC. However, there are others. Because let me tell you something, every commodity on the planet, including those up in Canada, is traded in US dollars. So if you can demonstrate that you can take $1 trillion and back them into a stable coin like USDC or anything else, we can trade that all over the world. Additionally, the banks hold the US dollars and the cost of transferring them between nations is exorbitant. Because he takes 2% of your fees, Jamie Dimon would never want this to occur. Therefore, if you were to perform a USDC, it would only cost 1 basis point to move the US dollar globally. Thus, that will occur. I'm correct in this regard. Mooch, you just lost that one. That's also why I anticipate happening. Our digital dollar will be available after they pass that stablecoin bill, USDC, ALUSD. It's possible that Ripple will eventually buy Circle. All signs are pointing toward Ripple and Stellar, which is also what I anticipate. On those 2 points, I agree with Kevin O'Leary, even though I don't typically. New Hampshire is the first state in the union to enact legislation establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, allowing the treasurer to buy the biggest digital asset in the world via an ATP directly. They now claim that reserve purchases of Bitcoin or any other digital asset with a market value greater than $500 billion, 0 cents are permitted by top tier digital assets. Right now it's only Bitcoin, but XRP might follow. Furthermore, I can assure you that New Hampshire will not be purchasing Bitcoin at this time. This strategic reserve will not be established. They only enacted legislation. You now need someone who is genuinely interested in purchasing cryptocurrency and keeping it for a long time. Consider what would happen if they made a purchase now. All okay is the price of Bitcoin increases. However, these folks are ignorant of the cryptocurrency world. The cryptocurrency market is unknown to them. All these Bitcoin maxes are heard by them. Bitcoin will always be available. Then, without warning, there is a huge fall, or perhaps tethered deep pegs, and Bitcoin is taken with it. Suddenly, all they have invested in these reserves is gone. You will have to wait years for the price of Bitcoin to possibly rise again. Right. These are just stupid ideas, in my opinion. States, in my opinion, will probably have an asset that they could use every day to transfer money quickly, cheaply, and outside of the conventional banking system. That's what lies ahead. Bitcoin is an antiquated technology. It's just that following the deportation of 2 prominent crypto leaders, the US Internal Revenue Service named Trish Turner to head its digital assets division. It appears that the IRS will finally examine cryptocurrency. However, I would prefer them to be less heavy on cryptocurrency. You know, not every cryptocurrency transaction need to be subject to taxes. In my opinion, the IRS should revise its crypto regulations and consider it. You might exchange XMM for XDC or XRP for XLM, and then suddenly the price of XDC or XLM drops and you get hit. It makes no difference because that trade constituted a taxable event at the time it occurred. Until you sell your cryptocurrency, I don't believe you should pay any taxes at all. That's my perspective on it. All day long, you ought to be able to exchange one cryptocurrency for another without incurring taxes. However, you pay capital gains and proceed as soon as you sell it. I'm arguing that people don't grasp things when you make them complicated. Secure cryptography using quantum technology, now's the time to begin. They've been warning us, you know, there will be quantum computers soon. Within the next year or so, quantum computers will be the talk of the town. They will begin to appear in people's homes. That will probably happen in 2 years, in my opinion. However, you will see the emergence of quantum computing. The public wants to think that this is 10 years in the future, despite knowing that Bitcoin is not quantum secure. Its owners nevertheless wish to think so. Quantum proof, and I'm not even sure if it will ever reach that level. According to David Schwartz, XRP will be prepared when the time comes, but by the time they issue the warning, it's probably already so far advanced that it will be closer than we initially anticipated. I recall watching Dark Pool, or whatever the name of the show was. I am aware that they recently released a new season that is primarily focused on technology. Quantum computers were featured on that show.